The orbital strike command hung in the air like poison. Empress Velkara's 6 fingers hovered over the crystalline interface, her violet eyes fixed on the blue world below. 40 billion humans. One touch would end them all. My Empress. Commander Zethron's voice carried no emotion, but his secondary hearts were racing. She could hear them through the war chamber's silence. They refuse surrender, Velkara said, her tail coiled tight against her armored legs. 3 standard cycles. No response to any transmission. The humans are inferior. The word cut like steel. They have no fleet, no orbital defenses. They huddled on that rock while we claimed the stars. Now they ignore us. Zethron's claws flexed once. A nervous tell. Permission to speak with candor. Denied. Velkara's finger descended toward the interface. This ends with fire or submission. They chose fire. The chamber door hissed open. Every guard's weapon snapped up in unison. Protocol demanded sealed war councils. No interruptions. No exceptions. A human child stood in the doorway. Small, maybe 6 solar cycles old by their strange aging. Brown hair tangled around a dirt-smeared face, wearing some kind of synthetic fabric clothing torn at the knees. In one hand, a primitive stuffed animal, in the other, something that made Zethron's blood freeze. A royal clearance badge. How did you... The nearest guard lunged forward, but Velkara's hand rose. Everyone stopped. The child walked into the war chamber. Its small feet made no sound on the obsidian floor. It looked at the holographic display of Earth spinning above the central platform. Then it looked at Velkara. "You're very pretty," the child said in flawless Imperial Standard. Silence crashed through the room like a shockwave. Velkara's translator had malfunctioned. It must have. She checked the Neuralink. Functioning perfectly. The human child had just spoken an incredibly complex language that took most species decades to master. How do you speak? My mom taught me. The child walked closer. Guards shifted but didn't move. Velkara hadn't given the command. She said you were coming. She said you were angry. Your mother is intelligent. Velkara's finger remained poised above the strike command. Where is she? Dead. The child said it like commenting on weather. No tears. Just fact. The sickness took her last week. She made me memorize words before she went away. Something cold moved through Velkara's chest. She pushed it down. The badge. Explain. The child held it up. Genuine Imperial issue. Biometric coded. Active status glowing. Mom said to take it from the drawer when the ships came. She said it would let me talk to the pretty queen, Empress. Okay. The child studied the hologram. Are you going to hurt my planet? This was absurd. A human child had breached maximum security, carried classified Imperial technology, and now asked questions like they were discussing a meal. Your people refuse to communicate with us. They give us no choice. That's because everyone's scared. Of what? You. The child pointed at her with the stuffed animal, some kind of bear-like creature with button eyes. You have big ships and weapons, and you look really angry in the broadcasts. We have sent peaceful buildings were peaceful, but your face wasn't. The child tilted its head. She was good at reading faces. She taught me too. You're scared right now. Velkara's secondary heart stuttered. I am Empress of the Eternal Dominion. I have conquered 47 species across 200 worlds. I do not experience fear. Your tail moves when you're nervous. It did the curly thing twice. The child walked to the hologram and stared up at it. Mom said humans are weird because we teach our children to see feelings. Most species don't do that. Quickly silenced. What else did your mother tell you? Velkara's finger lifted away from the strike command. Just slightly. She said you probably lost people too. In your wars. She said that's why conquerors conquer. Because winning feels better than remembering. The temperature in the war chamber dropped 3 degrees. Guards exchanged glances. No one spoke to the Empress this way. No one. Velkara stood. Her full height dwarfed the child. 7 feet of scaled muscle and imperial authority. You know nothing of loss. My mom's gone. The child hugged the stuffed bear tighter. My dad went away before I was born. My grandma died 2 years ago. My dog got hit by a car last month. Those small eyes looked up without fear. Everyone loses people. Mom said that's the one thing all the species have together. Then your mother was a fool. Velkara's voice went cold. Loss teaches strength. Weakness must be purged. She also said you'd say something like that. The child reached into a pocket and pulled out a data chip. Old Earth technology. Primitive but functional. She made me promise to give this to you if you were really going to push the button. I am not in the habit of accepting gifts from prey species. It's not a gift. It's a message. The child held it up. She said you'd understand after you watched it. At the child. At her own hand hovering near the interface that could end billions of lives. She took the chip. The war chamber fell silent. Human languages were primitive, limited emotional range. Velkara had studied thousands during the expansion campaigns. They expressed concepts crudely, relied on context heavily, and completely lacked the subtlety of Imperial standard. But the woman's face on the recording didn't need subtlety. She was dying. That much was obvious. The human disease called cancer, based on medical readouts visible behind her. Her skin had taken on that particular pallor her species developed near death, but her eyes remained clear. My name is Dr. Sarah Chen, she said in Imperial standard that matched her child's fluency. I'm a xenolinguist and cultural anthropologist. I know you can see I'm dying. I'm recording this 3 days before neural degradation makes speech impossible. I'm addressing whoever commands the fleet in our orbit. Velkara's tail went completely still. I spent 15 years studying your species, Sarah continued. After first contact, Earth's government funded my research. They thought understanding your culture would help negotiations. They were wrong. Understanding made me realize negotiations were impossible. Zethron shifted behind Velkara. She raised one hand for silence. Your entire civilization is built on a wound, Sarah said. 7,000 years ago, the Velkaran homeworld was invaded by the Kreshtal Empire. They slaughtered 6 billion of your people. The survivors learned a terrible lesson. Only the strong survive. Only conquerors live. Everyone else dies. Velkara's claws extended involuntarily. For 7 millennia, you've been proving you're strong, Sarah continued. Every conquest, every species added to the Dominion, every world that bends the knee. You're showing the universe that you're not victims anymore. You're showing yourselves. The recording showed Sarah taking a painful breath. Time was running out for her, but strength built on fear isn't strength at all. It's just fear wearing armor, and it makes you do unconscionable things to avoid feeling weak again. Turn it off, Velkara said quietly. No one moved. I said, wait, the child's voice, small but firm. She made me promise you'd watch all of it. Here's what I learned about humans during my research, Sarah said. We're not particularly strong. We're not the smartest species. We don't have the best technology or the longest lifespans. We're kind of a mess, honestly. But we have one trait that's absolutely unique in the galaxy. She leaned closer to the camera despite obvious pain. We adopt. Multiple meanings appeared. Biological replacement, legal guardianship, cultural integration. Humans adopt orphan children from other families, Sarah explained. We adopt stray animals. We adopt ideas from other cultures. We adopt strangers into our communities. We even adopt robots and AIs if we interact with them long enough. It's instinctive. We see something alone, something that needs care, and our first impulse is to bring it into the group. The recording showed Sarah's hands trembling. Other species find this bizarre. Your own species finds it incomprehensible. Why would humans waste resources on genetic lines that don't benefit their survival? Why show care to organisms that provide no tactical advantage? Her eyes found the camera. Because we decided 10,000 years ago that orphans matter, that the abandoned matter. That loss doesn't have to be permanent. We can't bring back the dead, but we can make sure the living don't face existence alone. Velkara realized her finger had moved back toward the strike command without conscious thought. My daughter is going to be an orphan, Sarah said. I'm making this recording knowing she'll face the universe without me. I've taught her everything I can. Languages. History. Did you find faces and understand emotions? I've shown her pictures of your species and explained your culture. I've told her about the Kreshtal invasion and the wound it left in your entire civilization. Tears tracked down Sarah's face now. And you know what she said? She said it wasn't fair that all those Velakarans died. She said they must have been very scared. She said someone should have helped them. The recording went quiet except for medical equipment beeping steadily in the background. She's 6 years old, Sarah whispered. She's going to die if you activate that weapon. 40 billion humans will die. But before that happens, I need you to understand what you're destroying. You're not destroying resistance. You're not destroying a threat. You're destroying the one species in the galaxy that looked at your ancient wound and felt sympathy. Sarah's breathing had become labored. The recording was ending. I taught my daughter your language because I wanted her to tell you something I can't. I'm not brave enough. I'm too angry at the universe for killing me before I could watch her grow up. But she's braver than me. She's braver than both of us. The recording ended. Velkara stood motionless. Around her, the war chamber had become a tomb. Mom said to tell you one more thing, the child said quietly, after you watched. Velkara's voice came out rough. What? She said if you still want to push the button after hearing what I have to say, she understands. She said sometimes the wound is too deep, and all you can do is make others hurt the way you hurt. The child looked up at her with those impossibly expressive human eyes, but she hoped you wouldn't. Why? The word barely made it past Velkara's throat. Because, the child said simply, someone should have helped the Velkarans when the bad people came, and now someone should help the humans. And Mom said maybe you're the only person strong enough to do it. The war chamber's silence stretched into something physical. Zethron's voice cracked the moment like glass. My Empress. Orders. At the interface. At the hologram of Earth spinning peacefully below. At the child holding a stuffed bear and a dead woman's hope. She thought of the Kreshtal invasion, of watching through archived recordings as her ancestors burned, of 7,000 years of conquest and expansion, of proving strength through domination, of the hollow satisfaction of victory after victory after victory, of never feeling safe, of never feeling anything except the desperate need to never be weak again. The child carries classified Imperial technology, she said finally. Explain how. Mom worked at the university. She had friends in weird places. She said someone in your fleet gave her the badge because they thought maybe humans were interesting. She said it was probably someone who was tired of burning worlds. Every guard in the chamber found something fascinating about the floor. Volkara's laugh came out sharp and bitter. Treason in my own fleet. Mom said it was hope, the child corrected. She said hope looks like treason when you're too scared to trust anyone. Your mother was far too comfortable speaking uncomfortable truths. She was a teacher. That was her job. Volkara's finger hovered. One touch. 40 billion lives erased. Proof of strength. Proof of power. Proof that the Velkarans would never be victims again. Or... She pulled her hand away from the interface. Commander Zethron, my Empress. Send a fleet-wide transmission, all channels. Every ship, every soldier, every support staff member. Content, my Empress? Velkara looked at the child. At the bear, at the face that somehow carried a dead woman's defiant hope. Tell them the Empress requires their presence in the primary landing zone on Earth. Full formal assembly. Immediately. My Empress, if this is an execution ceremony, standard protocol dictates. It's not an execution. Velkara deactivated the strike command interface. The hologram flickered and died. It's an adoption. The word landed in the war chamber like a physical blow. My Empress, I don't... This child is now under Imperial protection, Velkara said, as is every human on that planet. They are not conquered. They are not subjects. They are not slaves. Her violet eyes swept the chamber. They are adopted into the Eternal Dominion as full citizens with complete rights and protections. Stunned silence. That's not possible, Zethron said carefully. The Dominion has never faced a species that adopted orphans across genetic lines, Velkara interrupted. The Dominion has never encountered a civilization that looked at our ancient trauma and responded with sympathy rather than fear. The Dominion has never met anyone brave enough to send a dying woman's hope into the heart of our war machine. The Dominion changes today, the child smiled. First genuine expression since entering the chamber. Does this mean you're not going to hurt my planet? It means, Velkara said slowly, that your planet is my planet now, and I protect what's mine with everything I have. Mom would have liked that. Your mother was infuriatingly manipulative. She was good at her job. Velkara felt something shift in her chest, something that had been frozen for 7,000 years. What's your name, child? Emma Chen, humanity's ambassador whether you wanted the job or not. Velkara extended one clawed hand. Welcome to the Eternal Dominion. Try not to overthrow it before you reach adulthood. I'll try. That's all any of us can do. The war chamber remained silent. Guards shifted. Zethron's secondary hearts hammered. Someone would need to explain this to the Dominion's other 46 conquered species. Someone would need to justify why the Empress had just committed civilizational heresy. Velkhara didn't care. She looked at the darkened hologram, at the space where Earth had spun, at the hand holding hers, at the stuffed bear that had somehow witnessed the end of an empire's oldest wound. "Commander," she said quietly, "cancel the strike. Prepare landing parties. Tell them to bring medical supplies, food, and construction materials." She paused. "And tell them to bring everyone who's ever lost someone. I suspect that's everyone. My Empress, human adopt orphans across genetic lines," Velkhara said. "So can we. Starting now. Starting here. Starting with this child who was brave enough to walk into death and offer hope instead of fear." "Thank you. Don't thank me yet," Velkhara said. "I'm going to make you learn every aspect of Dominion governance. Your mother gave you an empire's attention. That comes with responsibilities." "That's okay." Mom said responsibility is just another word for caring what happens next. Your mother said many things. She talked a lot when she was scared." Velkhara's tail coiled once, then relaxed. "Yes, we all do." She led Emma toward the chamber doors. Behind them, the War Council erupted into frantic discussion. Protocols shattered. History rewritten. An Empress chose mercy, but all Velkhara could think about was a dying woman's recording. About 7,000 years of fear-wearing armor. About a child's simple observation that someone should have helped. About the possibility that strength could mean something different than conquest. The orbital fleet hung above Earth like 1,000 metal stars. Velkhara's transmission reached every ship simultaneously. 47 species held their breath. "This is Empress Velkhara of the Eternal Dominion," she said. "I speak to all who serve under me. Today, the humans of Earth joined our civilization not through conquest, but through adoption. They are our newest citizens with full rights and protections." Silence rippled through the fleet. "Some will call this weakness," Velkhara continued. "Let them. 7,000 years ago, the Kreshtal Empire nearly exterminated our people. We survived through strength. We rebuilt through conquest. We proved we would never be victims again." She paused. "But today, a human child reminded me that strength has many forms. The courage to show mercy is not weakness. The wisdom to adopt those in need is not foolishness. The decision to end cycles of fear is not surrender." Emma stood beside her, visible in the transmission feed. Small, human, holding a stuffed bear. "The Dominion changes today," Velkhara said. "We remain strong. We remain powerful. But we no longer prove that strength by creating orphans across the galaxy. We prove it by ensuring no one faces the universe alone. We prove it by becoming the help we wish we'd received 7,000 years ago." She placed one clawed hand on Emma's shoulder. This child's mother died teaching her to see others' pain. She died preparing her daughter to walk into enemy territory and speak truth to power. She died hoping that even an Empress could learn to be something more than her ancient wounds. Velkhara's voice went soft. She was right. The transmission ended. In the fleet above, 47 species processed what they'd just witnessed. Some ships prepared to mutiny. Others prepared to celebrate. Most simply tried to understand how their universe had fundamentally shifted in the space of a single broadcast. On Earth below, 40 billion humans watched the sky and wondered if they'd just been saved or conquered or something entirely new. In the war chamber, Emma looked up at Velkhara. "What happens now?" Velkhara's tail uncurled completely. "Now we figure out how to govern an empire that values adoption over conquest. How to integrate humans into Dominion society. How to teach 47 species that mercy has a place alongside strength." She smiled, showing fangs that no longer felt quite so threatening. "And we do it together, because that's what adoption means. Mom would be proud. Your mother weaponized hope and deployed it through a 6-year-old child. She'd be insufferably smug." Emma laughed. The sound echoed through the war chamber like light through darkness. Velkhara realized she couldn't remember the last time she'd heard laughter in this room. Couldn't remember the last time these walls had contained anything except fear and fury and the desperate need to prove strength through domination. Maybe Sarah Chen had been right about more than just adoption. Maybe the whole galaxy had been running from wounds so long that they'd forgotten wounds could heal. Maybe an Empress could be something more than her empire's trauma. Maybe 40 billion humans had just saved the Eternal Dominion from itself. Outside the war chamber, the universe continued spinning. Species negotiated. Ships repositioned. Protocols shattered and reformed. But inside, an Empress and an orphan stood together in the ruins of 7,000 years of fear. Your mother taught you to read faces, Velkara said quietly. What does mine say now? Emma studied her carefully. Those impossibly expressive human eyes saw everything. You're still scared, but you're also hopeful. Mom said that's the hardest thing, being both at once. She was right. Velkara squeezed Emma's shoulder gently. She was right about everything. She said I'd hate vegetables forever, but I actually like carrots now. Rebellion begins with carrots, apparently. If he'd stayed. Another orphan. Another loss. Another wound. Emma Chen, ambassador of Earth, first adopted human of the Eternal Dominion. I want you to know something. Your mother was brave for staying, and you are extraordinary for walking into this chamber carrying hope instead of hate. Velkara knelt, bringing her face level with Emma's. The Dominion is your family now. Dysfunctional. Traumatized. Desperately trying to be better than its worst impulses. But family nonetheless. The gesture was so sudden, so completely unexpected, that Velkara froze. Human customs. Physical affection. Vulnerable positions. Every military instinct screamed warnings. But Emma just held on, small arms wrapped around scaled neck, stuffed bear pressed between them. And Velkara, Empress of the Eternal Dominion, conqueror of 47 species, survivor of 7,000 years of civilizational trauma, hugged her back. Thank you, Emma whispered, for choosing hope. Thank your mother, Velkara said. She made it impossible to choose anything else. While species across 200 worlds processed that mercy had entered the Dominion's vocabulary, while Emma's planet spun below, humanity's collective breath held, waiting to learn what adoption meant for their future. In her recording, Sarah Chen had spoken of wounds and fear and the armor people wore when they couldn't afford vulnerability. She'd been describing the Velkaran Empire, but she'd also been describing herself, a dying woman facing oblivion, preparing her daughter for loneliness, choosing to weaponize hope because fear had already taken everything else. Velkara understood that now. Understood that courage wasn't the absence of fear. Courage was walking into the war chamber anyway. Courage was recording a message for an enemy while death crept closer. Courage was teaching a child to adopt the universe's pain as their own. Courage was choosing mercy when conquest was easier. Come, Velkara said, standing. We have an empire to rebuild and a planet to integrate and about 9,000 protocols to violate before lunch. Can we get pizza? Emma asked hopefully. I don't know what that is. You're going to love it. Humans are really good at food. We weaponized hope and superior cuisine. Humanity is a dangerous addition to the Dominion. Mom said we were a dangerous species when we loved things. She wasn't wrong. They walked through the chamber doors together. Behind them, guards scrambled to adjust. Ahead, an empire waited to learn what came after conquest. Above, a fleet held position between old ways and unknown futures, but none of that mattered as much as the small hand in Velkara's massive claw. As much as the stuffed bear that had witnessed history. As much as the smile on Emma's face when they stepped into the corridor and the Empire's future stretched out before them, uncertain and terrifying and filled with the possibility of being something better than their wounds. My Empress, Zethron said, falling into step beside them. The Council demands explanation. The other species are confused. Protocol has been completely abandoned. We need pizza, Velkara interrupted. Apparently, humanity's greatest weapon after adoption and emotion. Arrange it. My Empress, I don't... Figure it out, Commander. You're intelligent, adaptable, capable of growth. She glanced at Emma. Like all of us. When we choose to be. Emma squeezed her hand, and Velkara, who had spent 7,000 years proving strength through conquest, discovered that mercy felt remarkably similar. Just lighter. Just brighter. Just infinitely more difficult and infinitely more worthwhile. The Eternal Dominion would never be the same. Neither would its Empress. And somewhere, in whatever place dying xenolinguists went, Sarah Chen smiled.